Branch Manager at North Carolina Emergency Management, or NCEM. The Preparedness Grants Management Branch, we call ourselves PGMB. We manage a suite of over 10 regularly recurring non-disaster preparedness grants for the state of North Carolina. These grants do not require disaster declaration. They're designed to help jurisdictions and nonprofit entities across the state to prepare for and hopefully prevent and, if necessary, respond to disasters and emergencies. One of the most important grants in our suite that we manage is the state and local cybersecurity grant program, or SLCGP. This grant program started back in 2022, and it's designed to help local governments and community colleges prepare for, defend against, and if necessary, respond to cybersecurity threats and attacks. It's a very popular grant program. It has support federally. It's federally funded through Department of Homeland Security and FEMA. We've been running the program since 2022. We are now up to through our 2025 program. But this webinar today is for those folks who have received funding for FY24 SLCGP. That grant is managed in what we call our Salesforce grants management platform. It's a relatively new system for us. We just started using it really a couple of years ago. And in this webinar today, we'll walk you through how to manage your awards for FY24 SLCGP post-award. Of course, you received your awards, but how you will manage your awards through our Salesforce grants management platform. With the Salesforce grants management platform, again, at this point, you would have received your awards. You should have your MOAs or grant agreements executed. Hopefully, most of you have that. And now you're ready at the point where you're executing your projects, and you're going to hopefully start submitting requests for reimbursement soon to be reimbursed for expenditures for those projects. Then eventually, you'll hopefully expend all your funds, and then you will close out your grant, the normal grant life cycle. All that will be done through Salesforce. We're going to demonstrate how to do that for you today here, led by our SLCGP program manager, Ms. Kendra Bradley. Before we do that, I want to show you a few more things by way of introduction. I did want to have my staff introduce themselves as well, who are on the call. So Kendra, if I want to start with you, and then we can go around the room and introduce the staff who are on the call. Kendra, take it away.
Thank you. I'm Kendra Bradley. I'm the lead on SLCGP, and I enjoy working on this grant program a lot. I have two new grant managers who are working with me, and they are getting up to speed really quickly, and they will introduce themselves in just a moment. But they will both be working on SLCGP quite a bit, so I want you to particularly pay attention to their introductions, because you will see their names in chatter messages with them. And just by also a way of introduction, before I've been with PGMB, or North Carolina Emergency Management, for just over a year now. And before that, I was 3 years with Alamance Community College. So I also have a heart for the community colleges and the processes they go through in managing these grants. Thank you. Cameron, do you want to introduce yourself next?
Hi, my name is Cameron Pearsall, and I just recently joined PGMB, and I'm going to be working with Kendra, and who you can see over here, and Jess, who you can see over there, on SLCGP and other grants.
And Jess?
Thanks, Cameron. Yep, Jessica.
Hey. Ooh, got some crazy glare here, but my name is Jessica Krajewski. I am also recently started with PGMB as the Western Branch Grants Manager. But yeah, if you guys, thank you all for coming out today, and really excited to learn more about the process here.
Thanks, Jessica. Janine, introduce yourself, please.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Janine Childs. I am a grant manager here with PGMB. I've been here for about 4 years. Actually was with SLCGP from the start back in 2022. I also work with the program serving as backup to the lead Kendra. Happy to work with you all. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Janine. Felicia? Felicia, are you there? All right. Maybe
I think
Felicia's
Felicia's on hold, Derek.
not. Okay. All right. Michelle?
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Michelle Strong. I'm a grants manager with PGMB. I've been here for a little over 3 years. I work predominantly with the central branch, but I've worked a little with SLCGP, and I'm excited to be here. Thank you all for coming. Thank you.
Very good. Rachel? All right. Maybe Rachel's not available. Orvi, introduce yourself, please.
I'm sorry, I'm available. I was just trying
Okay.
to get my mouse to unmute. Good morning, everyone. I'm Rachel Asoka, a grants manager as well with PGMB, supporting the Eastern branch, quite often working with SLCGP, and I'm glad you're all here. Welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel. Orvi, please introduce yourself, ma'am.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Urvashi Babbar. I'm with the PGMB team for around a year now. I'm so excited that you all are here today. Thank you.
Very good. Are there any other PGMB staff on the call that want to introduce themselves? All right, very good. I see we did have one question. Hey, Lisa Kerner, I saw you had your hand up. And before I take your question, just to reiterate for everybody, anytime if you do have a question, just like Lisa did, put your virtual hand up. We'll call on you as we can. We'll also take breaks and pauses throughout the presentation today for questions. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. We'll take plenty of time, as much time as necessary, to answer all the questions that you might have. Having said that, Lisa, you have your hand up. What can we help you with there, ma'am? Lisa Kerner, do you have a question? All right. Moving on. Again, I wanted to share my screen for a minute, so let me do that with y'all. And before we start, I wanted to show you our website, our SLCGP website. So maybe my staff can put the link in the chat for us, but if you just Google NCEM space SLCGP, you will come to this page. As I mentioned, SLCGP started in 2022, and we're now up to the 2025 program. So when you go to the website, you're going to see the most recent year, which is the 2025 program. The applications for 2025 closed on November 30th. Those applications are in the process of being reviewed and scored by the state local cybersecurity grant committee. Once they're reviewed and scored, they have to be sent to FEMA for further review and approval. And then those award notifications will be made for FY25 SLCGP. That process can take some time, especially when it gets to the FEMA DHS level. We don't anticipate those award notifications coming out anytime this month. Hopefully within the next couple months, though, we'll have some word on who will be receiving the 25 SLCGP funding. So if you've applied for 25 SLCGP, please stand tight. And as soon as we know, we hear back from DHS and FEMA on the approval of the awardees, we will let folks know either way, whether you've been awarded funds or not, if you applied for 25 SLCGP. But we're here today to talk about 24 SLCGP. So if you go down to the bottom of this website, down here, we have archived content. So it says prior year SLCGP guidance. So again, if you've received 22 SLCGP, you'll click on this link here, 23 SLCGP, this is your link. We're talking about 24 SLCGP today, so this is your link. You'll follow that in there. You will find all the archived guidance with the 24 SLCGP website with information about the grant for you. All right, so I wanted to point that out to you. Additionally, we don't have it yet posted, but if you go to our main grants website, and again, I hope somebody from my staff can put this link in the chat for us, but just Google NCEM space grants. This is our main website that gives information in general about all the grant programs that we manage. I mentioned we manage for PGMB about 10 different major recurring programs. roughly about $100 million a year in grants that we manage. Our grantees are spread across the entire state, all 100 counties, including Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians, all the various municipal governments, within those counties, all the nonprofit organizations, community colleges across the state make up our customer base. So we have a lot of grant work that we do. This is kind of the generic grant website that covers all those grants. But here you'll see links to various important things, such as we call them the 5 required compliance documents that every grantee has to upload in their account in Salesforce. So here you'll see the State of North Carolina Substitute W-9 form. This link will take you to the most recent form, and then you'll fill that out. It's a tax form, and you'll upload that accordingly in Salesforce. And you'll also email the completed form to this address. The supplier electronic payment form, this electronic vendor payment form. This is you're required to fill this out to be electronically paid for your grants. So again, you would just download the correct form, follow the instructions on the form, you submit to the Office of State Controller, and you upload and maintain your most recent copy in Salesforce. Okay, so this form, you will send it to OSC and upload a copy into Salesforce. Certification no overdue tax debt. You have to certify that you have no overdue taxes. That's just required one time. That will be uploaded to Salesforce. Conflict of interest policy and your procurement policy. They will also be uploaded to Salesforce in your account in Salesforce. So here's where you find the links for those documents. We're going to talk about one of the requirements when you submit a request for reimbursement in Salesforce is you must include a summary of invoices. This is where the form is located right here. So it's a kind of spreadsheet you can download here, and that's your summary of invoices form that you would complete to submit with your RFR. Annual progress reports. There's actually now a module in Salesforce where you'll submit your annual progress report. So this is just for grants that are not in Salesforce. It's a form you could use, but since this grant's Salesforce, we'll show you how to submit your annual report, through Salesforce. These annual reports, there was a waiver of the report due to Helene for the kind of last year, if you will. So the first time that the report will be due it'll be due in July for the period ending 6/30/2026. So it'll be due in July. So from 7/1/25 to 6/30/26, that's the period of the annual report, and it'll be due 30 days after that by the end of July. So that'll be your first report that you'll have to submit, and that'll be done through Salesforce. And then some other documents here that may be of interest to you as well that are available in this blue box here on the screen. Here we talk about our Salesforce Grants Management Portal with links to the portal. So what I'd ask you to do is if you can follow along on your mobile device or your computer, just log into Salesforce for us. You can kind of follow along with your FY24 SLCGP grant. But this content here explains how to register for Salesforce Access if you still need it for your organization. Each organization can have up to 5 contacts associated with their organization to represent them in Salesforce. So if anybody actually needs access to Salesforce, please go ahead and follow these instructions and submit your request right now if you're watching. I have staff standing by to process your requests if you need access. Again, we try to limit this to 5 active contacts per organization. There's no cost to you to use Salesforce, but there's definitely a cost to us. So we can't have everybody and their brother on the system. It would cost us too much money. So we try to limit to 5 active contacts per organization. If you need access, please go ahead and submit a registration request, and my staff will handle that moving forward here and get you access as required. This content here is going to be updated here very shortly. Where it says accepting a grant award in Salesforce. Here you're going to see content that's what we call our grantee SOG, grantee standard operating guidelines, and it will contain a link basically to a Power DMS folder, a set of folders that lay out all the steps for you to follow. Many of which we're going to talk about today and demonstrate for you, but it lays it out with screenshots and PDF documents to show you how to do things like submit a reimbursement request in Salesforce for your grants. So that will be going here in the near future. It will be updated, and it will show you, various content to help you manage your grants in a kind of a step-by-step fashion. So that's going to be a new feature coming here very soon. And then, we do have other grants that NCM manages across the organization. We have various disaster grants, so you'll see information about other grants here that other folks manage across NCM on this website. All right. So that's a lot of information in general. Do we have any questions at this point? For anybody in the audience? All right, okay, Jennifer, yes, ma'am.
Hi, I don't think I have Salesforce access, and I went online, and the new user, it just took me to like reset your password, and I don't think I have access.
Okay. So I'll ask my staff to check and see if you have a registered account with us. We'll check and verify that. But let me so if we can, please sure somebody can check for Jennifer and see what organization are you with, man?
Durham Tech Community College.
Okay, we can check for Jennifer on that. And let me share my screen again just to show you how it should look when you go to register for access, since you asked. If you click this link right here on the website, okay, this should take you directly to what we call our NCM Preparedness Grants Portal, NCPGP, powered by Salesforce. This will take you to access for your SLCGP grant. There's another link out there that you'll have a choice to pick between hazard mitigation grants or the PGMB grants. You don't need to worry about hazard mitigation grants at this point. Just you would use this website. And then right here, where it says new users, click here. Hopefully this works. But it should look like this with the registration request form, ma'am. So this is what you should see. You'll have to be required to fill out, the red asterisk information is required. The other boxes are optional. And then, when it asks for, is your organization registered in the system? I think Durham Tech probably is. So you would just say yes here. Then you could search the list, for your organization on this list. And there you are right there. So you would associate yourself with that organization there, fill out the rest of the information. Where it says program, you would select SLCGP, obviously, right? And then go ahead and register. So that's how you would do it, ma'am. So if you use that link on the website, that should work. But again, my staff will verify for you if you already have a account with us. All right.
And for the people who are checking on the accounts, Stephanie Jackson also has the same question about.
Okay. And who's Stephanie with? Yeah. Who's Stephanie with?
Stephanie, which organization are you with?
Camden County, but the link that he used, the other girl who was saying it didn't work for me either. It did the same thing, but when you go to the Salesforce itself, I was able to go through, and okay. I can do the new thing. You just have to go through the other way.
Yeah, right. Just the way I just showed you. If you use that link I just showed you.
Yeah, I'm doing that now, so I probably should be fine.
Okay.
Okay, great.
All right, if anybody else has any questions, let us know. We want to get you all registered and get you access. And once you have access, I'd encourage you to log on and follow along with us here during the presentation today. All right. With that, I've talked way too much, folks. I want to turn it over to the real star of the show here, who's Kendra, who's going to walk you through actually how to manage your grant awards in Salesforce. So without further ado, take it away, Kendra.
All righty. Thank you very much. So Eric had mentioned that you should all have your MOAs. There are 2 state agencies that don't have their MOAs, but everybody else, your MOAs were sent out to you. Most of you all have fully executed or fully signed your MOAs. There's about 6 organizations that are still missing some signatures. You should have received an email, a chatter message and an email within the last day or so, checking on that. So if you have any questions about your MOA or getting it signed, please reach out to us and let us know. Derek had mentioned that we'll have a grantee SOG available to you. And I know some people like to, I'm a visual person. I like to read something quickly. So you'll have both. You'll have this recording that will demonstrate everything, but you'll also have a written guideline that you can access. And I just want to show you what that's going to look like. So if we pull up right here, that link that Derek said will eventually be on our website will take you to this page. You'll go down to emergency management, non-disaster preparedness grants, standard operating guidelines. And then these are the help sheets we have already. If you have had an SLCGP grant in the past with us, we may have emailed you out some of these. But for example, today we will be working on submitting a reimbursement request as part of this demo. But it may be 2 or 3 months down the line before you're ready to submit your first reimbursement request. You can come here, click this, and you can make it a little bigger, and it will give you screenshots and directions on what to do. So whether you want to use both the recording or this help sheet, this SOG, you have 2 methods of getting some answers quickly if you need them. I want to point out before I even start this big red banner at the top. It says first gather your supporting documentation as 3 separate PDFs, your summary of invoices, your invoices, and your proof of payment. That's because once you start your reimbursement request, if you don't have those documents ready and then you just close out, it submits the reimbursement request to us. And then we'll look at it and we'll say, oh, you don't have your supporting documents. And that's not a problem. We don't judge you. We know that Salesforce is, or our portal is a learning process. But what we'll do is we'll just reject it and we'll give you a note and say, hey, you didn't have your supporting documents. Just please resubmit with your supporting documents. And in just this last week, we've had somebody say, yeah, I don't know how it submitted. It just did it automatically. So that's why I put this big red note up here to make sure you need to have that information ready. All right. And there, just so you can see, there's, how to use the prorated service calculator, which we'll go over how to register in our portal. One thing I wanted to point out about what Derek was saying, I know that sometimes a position, a role at an organization will have an email address. For example, cfo@pestcounty.gov. If somebody retires or moves on and you put somebody new in that role, you do not just go in and change the name because it doesn't work. It causes all kinds of problems on our end. They need to go ahead and register their own account. And we need to have an email from you saying, hey, so-and-so retired or so-and-so left. Please remove them from our account. We will also go over requesting a project update today. That's how you request scope modifications, budget modifications, a POP extension, and closing out your grant. And uploading those 5 required documents that Derek reviewed on our website. So before I go on, are there any questions? And I can't see your hands raised, so either somebody on our team will have to let me know your hand is raised, or you can just speak up. All right. So let's say you are ready to submit a reimbursement request. You've logged into our portal and here you are. One thing I would want to make sure before we can issue a reimbursement to you, one thing we check is your account profile. And we check to make sure you have all of your supporting documents. So your this Cass County does not have all their documents. We would want to see at least 5 documents here, but we would want to see your substitute W-9, which is not your federal W-9. This is a substitute North Carolina W-9. Your certification of no overdue taxes, your procurement policy, your purchasing policy, and your vendor electronic payment form. So that would be the first thing we would check. We would also check to make sure that you were registered in SAM and that your registration was current and that you had your UEID number. But most of you are very familiar with SAM and UEID numbers. So you've got all that straight, you're ready to go. if you click on project, we highly recommend that you have all projects showing here. It defaults to recently viewed projects. And so if you have not logged in, maybe you're a new user, you know, the grant manager is the one who submitted the application, but you're the finance person and you haven't logged in, you'll come here and there'll be nothing listed and you'll be asking, you know, Kendra or Cameron or Janine or Jess, hey, my project's not there. It's because it's recently viewed. If you click this down arrow and change it to all projects and then in it, you will be able to see all your grants, all your that have a project associated with them. So the one that we're going to work with today is this one. And I know a lot of you have had questions since the time that your grant was awarded, and today we normally would have had this webinar a little bit earlier, but our Salesforce team, we have a great Salesforce team, and they are continually making refinements and updates that we request to make this process easier for you. And so there were a couple of things that they were completing in the background so that this process would work smoother for you. And that's why we're having the webinar today. But one of the refinements they made is that you have all your budget information right here on your project screen. So this Teth County was awarded $30,000 in a grant, in a federal grant. They are responsible for a match. So this year with SLCGP, it's a 70-30 split. There's a federal grant of 70%, and then the awardee or the grantee is responsible for 30% in matching funds in non-federal funds, and they have to be eligible expenses, and they have to be related to your project. So those three requirements: non-federal funds have to be part of your project, and they have to be eligible for reimbursement if they had been part of the grant funding or as the match funding. They have to meet all the same requirements. That gives your total project costs for this particular test case of $42,857.14. Over here it shows how much they were awarded. So some organizations received partial funding. They may have requested more than 30,000, but were only awarded 30,000 as an example. And then any reimbursement requests they send in is immediately subtracted so that in case you send in, it's so that you always have an accurate running total. Now, we may reject a reimbursement request because we need more documentation or something from you. And in that case, that number would be added back in. So you always have an accurate number here in the amount reimbursed of how much you've submitted for reimbursement. And then it will decrease this amount funding remaining. So you can always have an accurate spot check of where you are.
Hey, Kendra, I'm sorry, this is Derek. Sorry. If we get great information so far, if we take a pause and see if there's any questions anybody
Sure.
might have.
Yeah, and I'm gonna make this a little bigger.
We're doing a good
while we
job answering in
pause.
the chat, but if anybody has any questions at this point, I wanted to just take a minute to reflect on the match requirement, just to make sure everybody understands that, because it's very important. When we first started this grant program back in 2022, there was a required match, but the state paid the match for the grantees. We did that for 2023 SLCGP as well. But for 24 SLCGP, for the first time, the state's not able to pay the match due to budgetary issues. So you are required for your own match for this grant. I think Kendra said it's a 70-30 split. So 30% of total project costs in this, are your responsibility. And then if you applied for a 25 SLCGP and you get an award for that, the match goes up to 40% for y'all, right? So it kind of goes up a little bit. And again, that will not be paid by the state. That is borne by the, by the grantee. Please pay attention and understand as Kendra's going through the match requirements. As she mentioned, when you match those costs, they have to be for eligible expenditures. They have to be within the peer performance of the grant. right? And they have to be associated with that project. Okay, so for example, in this case, the total project cost of $42,857.14. You know, if you bought software for $42,857.14, you're good, right? Because you're gonna get $30,000 back and you got a $12,857.14 match, right? You'll get reimbursed $30,000. You match the rest, you're good to go. Okay, that's kind of the way it works. All right. So are there any questions about the match or anything else we've covered so far? Yes, Jennifer, go ahead.
Hi, thanks. So, I am not seeing SLCGP as an option of available grants.
Okay.
So let me answer that question.
Yep.
So available grants, if you come here to your home screen, available grants are grants that are open for application right now. That's all that that is. So right now, HMEP is open for application. Tier 2 is open for application. And for those LAPCs, counties that are online right now, I'll remind you that it closes January 16th at 11:59 p.m. But it's only open to generally to LAPCs and counties. So this would not apply to community colleges. But if you want to get to your information for your grant that you have been awarded, we're not talking about, you go to projects up here.
Okay. Sorry, I think I was probably doing something else and didn't hear that.
No, it's okay. It's always, repetition is great in webinars, so I'm glad you asked.
Okay, and I don't have anything listed here.
Your MOA may not be signed.
Jennifer, is it all projects at the top too?
Yeah.
Does it say
I'm
all
sorry.
projects?
Does it say all projects or recently viewed on your screen?
Okay, you're right. Okay, so, okay, so it is here. Yes, thank you.
So I would pin, see this pin right here? I would pin it at all projects. Otherwise, it's going to go back to that default of recently viewed, and it causes so much confusion. I wish it defaulted to all projects, but
Okay.
I would pin it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right, great question, Jennifer. Thanks for those questions. Kendra, take it away.
All right. So no other questions pending? Okay. The other great information that's on this screen, I love this screen the way our Salesforce team has it set up for us now, is you can immediately see that your POP started. It was backdated to September 1st, 2025. So any expenditures that were part of this project, part of your application scope, after September 1st, 2025 should be eligible. Your POP date will end August 31st of 2028, and all your reimbursement requests will be due 30 days after that. So by September 30th, 2028. Any questions about the POP? All right, and then just for your benefit, you'll know, you can see when your SAM expires. Not that you don't get multiple phone calls when your SAM is about to expire, but you can see quickly and easily if your SAM is in date. All right, so you're ready to submit a reimbursement request. Anytime you want to do an action like that, look up here in the top right hand corner, and these are your action buttons. So we can create a reimbursement request. Later we'll go over a project update, and we'll also go over submitting an annual report. But right now we're going to do a reimbursement request. All right. So first off, a couple things you'll be able to see is I can see immediately. And if somebody can mute their mic, we've got a hot mic. So, and I do see Tom Spencer's got his hand raised. Most of the time I can't see your hand raised, but sometimes
I just had
can.
a quick question. It was about
Sure.
the POP dates.
Yeah.
My POP date actually has 12/13/24 to 2. So we can do the POP date is only, we can do anything we need as long as the period of performance is within those dates. That's all we have to do, correct?
And it's within the scope of the project you had approved in your application. Yeah.
Okay.
Are you looking at FY24 or maybe FY23 project? I'm trying
I'm
to figure-
looking, I'm looking at the current project we just were awarded. The POP start dates say, this is what it says, 2/1/2025 to 12/13/2024 is what it says.
All right, will you put in the chat what county you're with, just so we can check that for
Sure,
you?
I will. Thank you.
Because
And-
we
and-
should have that correct.
Yeah, and Tom, do me a favor. What's your MOA number? Can you tell us your MOA number there? If you look at where it says MOA number.
Right here.
Can
is where you're
can
gonna
you
look.
tell, can you tell us that?
I'm looking at the detail here,
Uh-huh.
award, amount, detail, POP start date. Oh, I see. You have this is a comment. And by the way, I don't see my MOAM number. It's blank right now. We did get our contract, but that MOA number is blank.
Okay, what, can you tell us your project number, sir?
I'm looking at
Right there at the top.
project Lexington, the project title. It does. There's award number. Is that what your award name or number?
I think you're looking at your award record, sir. We're talking about your project.
My apologies.
Yeah.
And let me get to the all project.
Yeah.
Coming up. Thank you. I apologize for that. I do have it. You're correct. See, that's why I'm asking these questions. I see that I have an MOA number. Okay.
Yeah.
And
What is-
are the POP dates correct now?
They're correct here. It was incorrect in another area, and that's
So
why I
it's
was
incorrect in
confused.
the award. Well, that's good for us
Yeah.
to know. We'll check the awards. So
Okay.
I'm glad you asked that question because they should be consistent.
Thank you. I apologize.
And
No,
Tom-
I'm
Tom,
glad
what-
you
yeah.
asked.
Tom, what's your MOA number, sir? I just want to make a note of that.
Sure. MOA 24 SLCGP 081.
Thank you, sir.
And just so you all, since we're talking about it, there's a method to this madness. It's FY24 is the 24, SLCGP is the program, and then the numbers were just assigned consecutively as they were created. All right, so we're going to create our reimbursement. We can see that we were awarded $30,000. All of our $30,000 is in equipment in this particular example. So if I try to submit a reimbursement request with money in planning or money in organization, I'll get a red warning sign that says, you don't have any budget there. So, and just to demonstrate, I'll try that, right? So let's say I try planning and it says, you can't, you do not have money there. So I'll go to my previous screen and say, oh yeah, I forgot it was equipment. Or I misclicked. All right. I have a $30,000 budget here. I haven't submitted any reimbursement requests yet. So I have all my $30,000 left remaining. I'm gonna do my description. This says I bought I'm trying to remember what I named the invoice, but I bought a firewall. I think I called it tunnel firewall protection. And you'll notice the total amount is the federal share plus the match. So the total amount that is eligible. So I am getting to my notes here in just a moment. And I was preparing some demo stuff for you, so I needed to check something too. All right, so for my $30,000, you can see that if I have a total amount for this project of $42,857.14, it automatically calculates for me that there's $30,000 that will be eligible for reimbursement. And then you, the grantee, will be responsible for $12,857.14. So when you submit this request, you're only going to get a reimbursement check for $30,000. Now, this is one of the new things that we were updated our portal with, our wonderful Salesforce team. And I'm going to demonstrate something for you, but I probably won't save it just because it won't match these numbers.
Yeah. Before we get to that, let's just cover this again real quick. See if anybody has any questions about this reimbursement request, because it can be confusing. So in this case, Kendra, I believe, right, Kendra, you have an invoice for not including tax. We never reimburse tax, right? But an invoice for $42,857.14 that she's going to submit to support this reimbursement request, right? So you would not put your taxes on there, but your non-taxable amount on there would go on there. So she has an invoice that's $42,857.14, plus taxes, which are not real. Yeah, for a subtotal before taxes. So you put that amount in there, and then it automatically tells you how much will be reimbursed and how much you're required to match from that. So if this was not the full amount of your award, it could be less than that, right? It would calculate how much portion of that was your match, right? When you put that invoice in there, that's kind of what this is designed to do. I know it can be confusing, but in this case, we're keeping it simple. It's just a single invoice for the entire amount of the award, basically. That covers the full $30,000 award plus the match.
Right. So let's say you weren't ready to do the whole thing. So if I put 20,000 in here, right, then it would automatically calculated that 14,000 could be reimbursed and that you, the grantee, were responsible for 6,000. So it'll automatically do the split for you. But we're going to keep this. We're going to keep this simple.
Yeah, keep it simple. So any questions about that? I just want everybody to understand, because this is new, right? I want everybody to understand how this process works. Again, we were not requiring match before, so if you previously had received SLCGP funding in 23 or 22, this is new. I want to make sure everybody understands that. So if your invoice was $42,857.14, not including taxes, you'd only be reimbursed $30,000 the invoice in this case. Okay. All right. Thanks, Kendra. Go ahead.
Yep. Okay. So about this prorated services calculator, if you have an SLCGP award before, you may have had discussions with us about this. So some of your, and while I'm thinking, can somebody else look up one of my teammates, look up the AEL for services of software while I'm talking. I forgot to put that in my notes. I lost my train of thought. Oh, so prorated services calculator. So some of these grants did award funds for service as a software or some other kind of service that will have a 2-year period of performance, or not performance, but a service. So firewall protection for 2 years or 3 years. Now then, if you asked for 5 years or you asked for 3 years, but it's not, you were waiting on your LOA, and then you needed to go and update your quote. And so it's not starting as early as you had thought it was. All the rules still apply. And the rules for grants and purchases is that all purchasing must be done, ordered, received, fully received, and paid for before the end of the POP. So even if you have a 5-year service contract, and even if you pay for it all up front, all the 5 years, you will not have received all those 5 years of services before the end of the POP. And so we can only reimburse you for the portion that's received during the POP. So if you had a grant with us with SLCGP before, you probably have, you may have had us send you a prorated services calculator. And you can still use that, but one of the upgrades that our Salesforce team has done is integrated it into Salesforce to make it easier for you. And it's also easier to use because you can just fill in the fields. So you would put in the start date of the service, and it's very helpful for us and for you if your invoice shows that, you know, this is 3 years of protection from here's the beginning date and here's the end date. If you don't have that on the invoice, we may reach out to you, or we may assume that it's the date of the invoice and then go, you know, if it says it's for 3 years, then we'll calculate the end date of service. You'll put in the total without tax cost of that service from your invoice. And that will, and you see that this is the light gray. This will automatically calculate what the cost is per day. It's just using that to for the next calculation. And it will tell you how many service days are between the start and the end. Then you'll put in the POP. So you would be able to look here on your project screen and see that you would put 9/1/2025 here and 8/31/28 here. And that would give you the POP dates. So what it's doing is it's calculating for you what overlaps between the contract service and your period of performance. So it will ask you to put in the later of the 2 dates of the start. So the later of either this date or this date, and the earlier date of the end. So the earliest of this date or this date. It's likely if you're using this prorated services calculator, the earlier date is probably your POP end. It will automatically calculate these fields and tell you how much is reimbursable. Then you can copy that number by clicking this button. You can also download this as a CSV, you know, like an Excel spreadsheet, so that you have it for your documentation. You can save this calculation, and when you save it, it will save it within our portal. One thing that I've always mentioned about this portal is that it's a complete grant record, right? So if you click save, it'll be here in your grant portal. So, but if you copy it, this number here will copy and you can put it here. And then it will automatically do the split. So I know that's fairly confusing. So I'm going to stop right there and see if there's any questions.
Yeah, hey, Kendra, I also want to jump in here. There's a lot of great discussion going on in the chat right now. So I appreciate everybody's questions, concerns, and people kind of answering questions for each other. I really appreciate that. I appreciate the staff answering the questions. But there's one question I wanted to address from Miss Sarah Blair. She said, if our amount awarded is for equipment, but our match is being met with employees' time and effort, their payroll and fringe benefits, how can that be reported? So Sarah, that's it's possible to do that. You'd have to reach out to your grant manager in that particular case. That's kind of the exception to the rule, if you will. And we'll work with you to try to make that happen. This Salesforce application is done for, you know, really the 99 percentile, you know, situation where, you know, it's just you're paying, you know, you're paying for the match on a per item basis, right? You know, with items you're purchasing, the goods and services you're purchasing, not with some other, you know, service or good. If that's the case, you have to reach out to your grant manager. Will work with you on how to make that happen. All right. So good question.
We'll
Yeah, go ahead.
And we'll talk more about documenting the match here in just a second too, but that's an excellent question at this point.
Yeah, I think, go ahead, Sarah. Yeah, if you want to come on mic there, please.
So as far as getting reimbursed for the entire amount that we're awarded, again, is for equipment. If we're using that total amount to purchase equipment, and I'm assuming I'll get an invoice for that total amount that we were awarded. Right. If I type in that amount, it will automatically create a match.
Yes, it will. That's and we say invoice, not including taxes, right? So yeah, that's not including the invoice. Yeah, it will automatically do a match. So what you have to do is you have to contact your grant manager. We're gonna have to basically do a kind of a behind the scenes kind of manual override on that. and you're gonna have to show proof of match in another way, which we're gonna get to in a minute about proof of match. So it's a more complicated situation, and hopefully not a lot of folks are in that situation, but we can work with you on that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. And what organization are you with, ma'am?
I'm with Central Carolina Community College.
All right, thank you. Good question. And I also wanted to take a shout out to Liliana Noble for again pointing out in the chat to everybody, we don't do any taxes in our reimbursement requests. Thanks to Liliana for mentioning that to everybody. No taxes. It's a rule we have to follow. All right,
And that
thanks.
applies to
yeah.
your match as well.
Yeah, exactly. The match, we can't include taxes and match. We can't include taxes and reimbursement request amount. Just no taxes are taken out of the equation entirely. So thank you for that. And for the prorated services calculator, guys, look, it is confusing. And that's why we have the calculator. But if you go to our website as well that I showed you earlier, the NCM Grants website, we've got information about the calculator there as well. So you can kind of see that there and learn from it. Once you do it one time, you'll kind of get it. But the gist of it is we had a lot of folks that were basically paying for SaaS, software as a service. They would, the period performance of grant say would be 3 years. They would go ahead and buy 5 years of service kind of up front, like during the period performance of the grant, right? And they say, I want to be reimbursed for the full 5 years of service, but the POP's only 3 years, right? So you were prepaying for service that extended beyond the POP, all right? And we can't do that under federal rules. We can only reimburse you for the amount of time the services are incurred within the POP. So even though you're paying for it during the POP, you have to receive the goods or service during the POP to reimburse for it. So in that case, if you pre-bought 5 years of software service, you only get reimbursed for 3, for the 3 years of the POP or whatever it might be for the POP. That's the genesis of the prorated service calculator. And the problem was if we had paid you that amount for services that were incurred after the POP, even if we paid you like by accident and you got paid for that, theoretically the federal government can come back and claw that money back, or an audit could detect that money and try to claw that money back once the audit was done. We have to make sure we get that correct. So that's why we did the prorated services calculator. Go ahead.
Just to demonstrate what Derek was talking about, here's an example one. It's an extreme example, but an example one using the prorated calculator that we would send out before. This is what has been integrated into Salesforce that I was showing you. But here are, let's say the invoice started on the date of the beginning of the POP, but it went out, let's say 5 years, and their end of POP is 8/31/2028. So going out 5 years, it's gone out too far, right? Going out to 2030. If their total cost of service without sales tax was $100,000, the later of the 2 days for the beginning happens to be the same in this particular example. The earlier of the 2 days is the end of the POP, 8/31/2028. So there's 1,095 days that overlap of the 1,825 days that you purchased. So because of that reduction and overlap, out of that $100,000, only $59,995.05 would be eligible for reimbursement or as a match.
Thanks for that example. It's a great example, Kendra. And it's kind of dramatic, right, y'all? But you see the impact of this, right? If we just paid you for the 5 years, that's $40,000 ineligible expenditure we paid you for, right? And that could be clawed back by the federal government later. So that's why it's important to use the prorated service calculator when you have these things. Thanks, Kendra.
All right. So, but we've got a nice simple one. We don't have any prorated services, and we got a simple match calculation here. So we're gonna go save and next. Okay, this is what I was mentioning in red at the top of that SOG. So you will need each of these documents. So I'm gonna upload if I just said, oops, I forgot I needed those, and I X'd out of here, it's probably gonna submit a reimbursement request. And again, like I said, it's not a problem. We will just reject it and say, hey, you didn't have your documents. And we don't think any worse of you for that because it's a new process for a lot of people, and it's a learning process. But it saves you time, it saves us time if you get it right the first time. So you're gonna upload your summary of expenses. And I'm gonna go to my grant working file where I've saved all my documents. And And I'm going to show you what I'm uploading here in just a minute. So that, as an example. So let me pull that up. Make sure I got the right one. All right, so you can use your own template as long as it has the same information. However, we recommend that you use ours, which is also, you can find this template on our webpage, which is right here. You can find this template right here. Okay. You put in the vendor, the invoice date, invoice number. Oh, this is not the one I wanted to use. I wanted to use a different one. Hold on. The invoice amount. So in this case, you know, it may not have been exactly on the penny what the total project costs were between the split and the match. Also, your total invoice is going to probably include sales tax. So this number includes what is actually on the invoice. So with sales tax, if it's over the amount that you need, whatever, this is what shows on the invoice. This is what your proof of payment is. And I know this is really small drop down box, but it says canceled check, your financial ledger, your bank statement, your credit card statement, your travel employee reimbursement form that you use within your organization, or your payroll ledger, which is what that other person was asking about a little bit. You're going to choose which one of these is your proof of payment. Cancel check is not your file check. It's the cancel check. It's the front and the back. That's most commonly what we see submitted, and it works really well. You'll choose which poetic category your funds are coming from. You'll put a brief description, and then this is the amount that you are requesting be reimbursed. So the amount minus the match, minus the sales tax, this is the amount that you're requesting to be reimbursed. One of the nice things about our template is that we have formulas in here. So if you have multiple invoices, it will do the calculation for you down here. One thing to note is this number must match the amount that you're requesting for reimbursement at that time. So that's another area where we sometimes have to work with somebody on their reimbursement request. So any questions about this form or your summary of invoices? So we've uploaded our summary of invoices. We have a nice green check. We're going to upload our invoice. And one thing to note here is you can always upload multiple files. So if I have multiple invoices, multiple proofs of payment, multiple proofs of match, you just click this again and upload the other document, or however many documents you need. Upload the proof of payment. There's my canceled check. All right, this is where we were talking about the proof of match. So this is where you would need to either have a narrative that says our county is paying the 30% out of county funds, and just have the invoice and the proof of payment all in one file, or the person who was asking about their personnel costs, again, some kind of narrative describing how that meets the match, and then the supporting documentation for that. And it can be all in one file, or you can upload multiple files here. So I'm going to stop right there and see if there's any questions or clarification that needs to happen right there.
So would you require, So would you require the proof of payment in addition to the invoice as a supporting document for that as well?
Yeah, it has to meet all the same requirements. Anything for the match has to meet the same requirements as any reimbursed funds. So yeah, we need to know, we need to have the invoice and the proof of payment, or if it's personnel, the ledger showing that that person was paid and how that payment was broken down.
And Sylvia has a question too, Kendra. Sylvia, did you want to come on the mic?
Oh, hi. So I just have a question about the amount. Like if the invoice exceed the amount that we were awarded for, like let's say it's for 87,000, the budget amount, and we got invoice for 100,000, for example. Do I have to enter only the amount that the budget was approved by the DPS, or I just enter the whole amount for the invoice?
So in this column, you'd enter the invoice amount, including sales tax, match, shipping costs, the whole amount that's on that invoice, so that we can match up that invoice against your proof of payment. And then this amount is the amount that has no sales tax, no match, no extraneous other items that you purchased. This is the amount that you're requesting to be reimbursed.
Okay, so in the first screen that you showed, where you create the reimbursement request line. So in that screen that you have total amount federal share plus match. And that line, and that do I enter the whole amount of the invoice, or just what was approved by your agency?
So that would be
because I know that you say that it will calculate it itself for the match amount. So I'm like kind of concerned, like, okay, let's see, my invoice is not for 87,000. That was the amount that we were approved for the budget.
Kendra, that's a good question that she's raising, and we may need to. If you can, I don't know if we can pull that screen back up again, possibly.
Well, I can get there a different way.
Okay.
Give me just half a second, and I will get there. I tried to scroll down, and it wouldn't with that pop-up open, but we can get there a different way. Oh, see, it's already showing that I already did it.
Is it showing the reimbursement request? Has it saved it yet under reimbursements?
Well, it is, because see, I have zero budget.
I'm saying, but if you click on reimbursements in the object, has it saved this reimbursement yet?
I think so. But let's see. Let's make sure. The most recent one.
It's under grant manager review. Do you wish me to stop that?
We're going to take a look at it right now, just on the screen, see what it looks like.
So what do you want to see, Derek?
No, so just, I mean, it's not how they're entering it, but this is just what it looks like after you enter the information for the reimbursement request. So the way the screen worked was, remember, it asked for total amount, federal plus match. And in our example we had, it was a simple example. We put the total amount of the reimbursement plus the match, right? And it kind of broke it out for us, how much was reimbursable, how much was the match. But what Sylvia is saying is, where it can get confusing is if you have an invoice that exceeds the amount of the reimbursement plus the match, how do you reflect that in the reimbursement request? So we might have to take a look at this screen and how we enter those reimbursement requests, and maybe tweak that a little bit. It may be easier for folks if we ask for them to put the total reimbursement amount requested, and then it calculates the match for them from there, rather than total amount. So we need to take a look
Yeah,
at this. I think that might be easier. Then you can
fine
match
tune
it.
that label.
Yeah, fine tune that calculation. Yeah. So we'll take a look at that, guys. We'll figure it out for y'all. But point is, in general, what'll happen is you'll enter your reimbursement request on the screen before. You'll do the summary of invoices like Kendra's shown you. You'll attach your supporting documentation, and we'll tweak that formula for the entry of the reimbursement request. So thanks for bringing that issue to our attention, Sylvia.
And hopefully somebody took a note on that. So we
Yeah,
can
I got a
back
note.
in.
Yeah, we'll discuss it afterwards. Thank you.
Yeah,
Tom
but-
has a question too. Tom, what do you have, sir?
Well, so I work with Sylvia, and the reason that this is coming up is what's happened is that initially when we submitted for the grant, we got quotes and those kinds of stuff, but cost for the hardware has gone up because of memory costs, those kinds of things. The vendor doesn't have that particular one that we submitted the grant for anymore. So if we still do the project and we stay within the parameters of what we're doing, as an example, let's say it was Lenovo, but we can get a better price with Dell. As long as we're doing the same project, are we okay to do that?
You are, and we're going to talk about submitting what we call project management requests in a minute here, where you can request minor scope and budget modifications and get that approved. So it's all kind of in writing for you in Salesforce. So we'll cover that. And you're segueing into kind of our next section, but you should be fine. Bottom line, yeah, we'll share the process for that.
All right.
But the upside is you're going to have invoices they're going to be pretty high invoices, right? They're going to kind of exceed the cost of what you requested. So we're going to have that situation where we have to account for those kind of large invoices.
Absolutely. As an example, our request is coming in at, originally it was 87. I'm redoing quotes now and it's coming in around 100. We have enough to cover for our budget, but I want to just make sure we account for it correctly and you understand we're following the procedures. It's just costs have gone up and maybe we had to switch a vendor to give a better rate.
Right. Gotcha. Okay. Thank you. All right. Any other questions? All right.
All right. And
Let's
then
move on.
if there's any other optional documentation you want to upload, this is where you can do it. And again, you can upload multiple files. Here, once you've started uploading files, it will not let you submit until you have these 4 checks here. You do not need a check here. All right, and it gives me an option to create another reimbursement, but I've spent all my money, so I'm going to say no. And it tells me what my reimbursement number is, but you should receive an email also that has that information in it. Also, you will be able to go under your reimbursements and see them as well. Okay, so that was submitting a reimbursement request. Everything else will go a little quicker, just to give you some hope here. But any questions before I move on from reimbursement requests? Okay. So we were just asked a question about a minor scope modification. So this is what we would do under a request project update. So they want to go from Lenovo to Dell. They're staying with the exact same intent of the application project. It'll do the same things. They're just going with a different vendor. That is an example of a minor change. So we can do minor budget modifications. You will not be able to request more money. You can request to move money between categories as long as it's less than 10%. Let's see. So it's going to ask you what type of management request you want. So here's the scope of work, which is Lenovo versus Dell. Here's your budget modification, which is moving money in between categories. Your POB extension request, I will tell you ahead of time that it can't be very long. And that's because we have our own POP with FEMA that we can't go beyond. And so there's only a certain window of time that we can do a POP extension request. The obligation request is, let's say you are awarded $30,000 and you spent $29,983. and there's not anything you can spend the few dollars that are left over. Before you can request a closeout, you have to have a zero balance, and so you would ask to deobligate those few dollars, and then you could do the closeout request. So, but and these screens are fairly self-explanatory. You just fill in the narrative and tell them what you want. So in this example that we were given, we would like to switch vendors, and they would say from Lenovo to Dell because they can give the same equipment at a better price. Since we got the original quote. Next, and they would upload their documentation. It says optional, and that's true. But if they wanted to upload the 2 quotes, they could do that. Just, so that everything was on file here together, and so that we didn't come back and ask them, because we might. And then thank you for your request. So that's how you do project modifications or project updates. And there is a grantee SOG on that. So you don't have to remember all this. You can refer back to that. But any questions before I move on? Like I said, these next sections are quick and easy.
Hey, Kendra. So just on those project management update requests, once you submit those, they become a project management request.
Oh,
so if you go into the project management object, you can show them where that rests. Yeah.
That's this one right here.
Yep.
And so here is, we would like to switch vendors.
And what will happen is then this will be, it sees the status submitted right there. Once this gets approved, it will be approved, and you will see, you should get an email from the system, and you should see a chatter record. We're going to talk about chatter in a minute. You'll see a chatter record saying it's been approved, right? So then you will see not just you submitted the request, but it's been approved, and then you'll be able to go proceed forward with that, with that revised minor scope modification. And I just wanted to comment on these scope modifications, why they have to be minor. It's designed to kind of prevent the bait and switch, if you will, because these are very competitive grants. I mean, you are lucky to receive the funding because it's a very competitive process, right? So if you have somebody that applies for $100,000 worth of equipment to get the award, and they say, oh, we want to do a modification. Now we want to do an exercise instead of equipment, right? We want to do a $100,000 exercise, not equipment. Well, you competed on the equipment, not the exercise, right? So that would not be fair to all the applicants who, did not get funding, because now you're getting something different than what you competed on. So that's why these have to be minor scope and budget modifications. Can't be anything significant.
All right.
Oh, and there was a question about, will I receive a copy of this recording? Because some people have to log off. We're a little long. So the recording will be on it has to get converted to a YouTube video, and the recording will be on our website within the next couple of days. Okay, so if you just check back on the website, you will see a copy of the recording.
And I want to thank our grant manager, the awesome Janine Giles, who's been working on SLCGP. She has already approved my request for $30,000, and she has submitted it to Department of Public Safety for processing and payment. And so she sent a chatter to Derek, who is our grantee in this case, to let him know where it is in the process. So it hasn't been paid yet, but it has passed the first hurdle of approval, and it's gone to the controller to be approved and then sent to accounts payable. So you should see a chatter somewhat like this. And like Derek said, we're going to talk about chatters more in just a minute. But first, I wanted to go over the annual reports. There's been quite a few questions. I'm very impressed with everyone who's been reading their MOAs. There's been quite a few questions about the annual report. As Derek mentioned at the beginning, last year, the reports were, if you had a grant, the reports were waived for that last year because of Helene. But if you have a grant now, or now you have this grant, you will have an annual report due in July for the period beginning July 1 through July 1, 2025 to June 30, 2026. Your report will be due by the end of July 2026. It used to be that you had to download the report form from our website, and it's still on there in case you want to look at it. And then you had to either email it to us or you had to attach it to a chatter and send it to us, and then we put it into Salesforce for you. Now, once again, our wonderful Salesforce team has put this all as a form in Salesforce. So before July 30th, 2026, you'll click on this button and you'll see your organization name, all your information here. They've also programmed this so that you can pick the correct year. So this first one will be due July 31st, 2026. I want to make a note about these other ones. If you complete your project and close it out, then you don't have to do all these other reports. So just so you know, once it's closed out, your reporting is done. But until it's closed out, you have to do a report every year. So I spent all my money.
Hey, Kendra, I'm sorry on this. Actually, technically, this is the first report.
Yeah.
That might be 0 there on that, because it says expended prior annual periods, right? So if you spent the money
and prior annual periods,
yeah,
thank you for that.
nothing,
catch.
right?
Yeah,
if you spent the money from 7/1/25 to 6/30/26,
Yeah.
then you put that amount in here. Yeah, that's correct.
You're right. Thank you for catching that. And I am just trying to spend all kinds of money here. Okay. And then next. And then you'll describe what you did. I didn't do anything. And see, these I buttons will give you information. But I didn't do anything in the ones that I don't have money in. But I did. I bought firewall and deployed. And you'll
And you saw where you're required to put NA in the fields where there's nothing. It says it up there in the instructions. So right up there at the top, it says, please write NA if this is not applied to you. The system will not let you advance if you don't do that. So no blanks, put NA for the ones that there is nothing to report. Thanks, Kendra.
Yep. And then if you want to upload a file, pictures or anything like that, this is where you would do it. And your report has been submitted. Any questions about the annual report before I go on to chatters real quick? Okay. So you have multiple screens. You have your account profile. You have your award screen. And you have your project screen. And you have reimbursement screens and payment screens. When you get your award, you won't have a project yet until you've accepted your award. So if you have a question at that point, you would probably chatter us from there. But you all have your awards. You all have projects created. So from this point on, we request that you do all chatters from this screen. And the reason is that way we can find them easier. We know just to go to the project screen, we can miss them if they're on a different screen. The other way that we can miss them is if you don't put our name with a @ at the beginning. So Janine is my grants manager. And so I put the @ at the beginning. I started typing her name and I can select it. If I had not done that, unfortunately, the way this system was designed by Salesforce is I could just start typing. I have a question. Please get back to me ASAP, right? And even though this is really important to me and, you know, my deadline is coming up and I click share, Janine is not going to know that you sent that urgent question. If you had tagged her, she would have gotten this notification just like you guys get a notification number up here when you have chatters. She also would have, just like you guys get an email whenever we chatter you, she would have gotten an email. So I'm going to try again because, you know, I have an urgent question and she has not gotten back to me in 3 weeks. So I'm going to try again, and this time I'm going to do it right. The reason she didn't get back to me in 3 weeks is because she didn't know she had it. Sorry, I did not tag you. I need to ask you for help on my prorated services calculator. And we set up a Teams. Now, and you can also, let's say you happen to know that Janine and I work together, or that, since I'm the one that you know what, I'm going to assign that as Derek. Hold on, because he's the grantee here. But Derek knows that Janine and I work together. So he knows that Janine and I have asked him that anytime he sends one of us a message to send it to us both, just to make sure if one of us is on vacation or out sick, and that way we have double coverage. So if your grant manager asks you to make sure you tag somebody, that's why. It's because we work as a team and we try to keep things covered. But now,
Hey,
because
hey,
yep,
Kendra, can you put Jessica on there as well? So basically, anytime y'all want to send a chatter, if you
except for
copy these three people, Kendra, Janine, and Jessica Krajewski, somebody will respond back to you. So if you can tag these three folks, that's all we need.
so the one thing I need you to know about Jessica is she will very soon have one that says at Jessica. But right now, if you see her name written like this, Jessica Krajewski, and then at GMB Grants Manager, that's because it's a temporary thing that we're getting fixed. But that is Jessica, and it's also Cameron. All right. Any questions before I hit share? Oh, and also, you see this little, you can attach a file. Like I have a question about my prorated services calculator. I can attach, you know, my documents, and so that Janine can see what I'm talking about.
And also, Kendra, all the formatting features are available too, as well as you can see that. You can bold, underline, highlight, just like a regular email. So that's available to you as well.
So when I send those, Janine will get a little message up here. It'll show up on her portal, and she will also get an email. So we try to keep up with your communications, and we ask that you do all your communications in here because, again, this is a complete grant record. So if you ever get audited or somebody asks questions or you have turnover and you got a new grants manager coming on, everything that they need, including all communications, they should be able to find right here. All right, any questions before I turn it back over to Derek to facilitate open Q&A? All right.
Outstanding, Kendra. Thank you for that demonstration. We've been handling a lot of questions as we went through the process, but we now have plenty of time for any additional questions and answers. Just raise your virtual hand and we will call on you. All right. Seeing no more questions, I'm just looking in the chat. Is there any more questions from the chat we need to answer? Oh, there's one. We have a few. I'm sorry. All right. I spoke too soon. I think, Curtis, you were up first. I'm sorry. No, you were not. Connie, you were up first. What's your question, ma'am? Connie Calloway.
Okay. Thank you. I received a grant last year, and so I've been working with you for a while, and I received this grant. We are a really, really small county, and it took us a really long time to go through procurement to try to meet FEMA standards. And, you know, sort of realizing that the period of performance is so short because it was backdated, and we did not have a project already going. We needed to get the grant money before we could, start paying for the project. Anyway, I'm looking at this grant and wondering, how can I go through this procurement process again and still have time to do some of the things on my grant. So this is kind of too long to go through right now, but is there anybody I could, talk to possibly later about how I can speed up the procurement process or, solve this problem?
Yeah, so good question. And we didn't get into this in detail, but because it's a federal grant and you're being reimbursed with federal funds, you are required to follow, federal procurement standards. But the way the standards work, because if you're a local government entity like you are, Connie, you have to follow the strictest of your either local policy or the federal policy, whatever is more restrictive, right? So depending on the levels of your procurement, I'm sure a certain number of bids were required, right, that you had to document. And that could take a while. The only thing I could tell you about that is we do have to follow those rules, right? There's no rule of waiver of the procurement requirements because that's an auditable item. But this is a 3-year period of performance. We can do small POP extensions. So depending when your POP ends, you could request a POP extension, if necessary. And there are also minor scope and budget modifications we can do with you and work with you on that as well if you want to do some minor adjustments. But short of that, that's really all we can do. So I would recommend that if we want to talk more detail about your situation, just reach out to the grant manager and set up a Teams call, and we can talk about more specifically about your situation. But the immediate remedies would be, perhaps a small POP extension or, a minor scope or budget modification. But you do have to follow the procurement rules.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Connie. All right, good question. Okay, and then I think Stefan, I'm sorry, Curtis, you were next, sir. Curtis Gillikin.
Hey, good morning. Curtis from Carter Community College here. I had 2 quick questions. The first one was about about FY23. I just wanted to clarify, did you say the annual report is not required for the FY23 SLCGP?
It will be. So depending on if you haven't closed your grant out yet, when is your POP over, sir, for 23 SLCGP?
Let me double check on that one. I have the other pulled up. So for 23, the POP is through June 30th of 27. And we are still going. It was some software as a service, so we are still continuing. So we'll do the annual reports for this year moving forward. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. So it'll be the report. Technically the period started, 7/1/25. It goes through 6/30/26, and it'll be due by the end of July 26 for that first year. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And the other question I had was for the FY24, and it also relates to the POP. We essentially we had some turnover in our grants department and had some new folks around the time of the application. We had applied for 3 years of essentially like some consulting and training services. Okay. And the POP date, so if we were to sign, today, the POP date for FY24 for us goes through February 28th of 2028, which of course would, if we were to sign today, that would allow us about 2 years to get this completed. Is there any way that, I assume that we can't extend a full year. I know you said there's only a limited amount of wiggle room there. Yeah. So would we be able to, potentially when I was discussing this with the consulting company, they suggested that they have a higher tier of service that essentially we get more bang for our buck within those 2 years. Do you think that would be an applicable change request that we would be able to basically do the higher tier of service for the 2 years instead of the 3 years with the lower tier of service?
Yeah, and then you're not exceeding your full budget amount. It's the same budget amount. You're not asking for more money. So I think that's something you could certainly submit to us as a modification request. And I think we'd probably be amenable to that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that.
Thank you, sir. Good questions. All right, and now Stephanie Jackson.
Hi, I just have hopefully just 2 questions, but the first one, and I promise I was paying attention, but I don't think I saw exactly where she was at. In the file where you upload like the origination documents, the sales tax and I'm not sales tax, but like property tax, no tax owing and stuff. Where in this portal do those documents go? Because I think I missed that.
Yeah, great question. That's going to go in your account. Did you want to show Kendra the account? Yeah, there you go. Kendra's going to show it for us on the spot. Your account profile right there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so in there, okay, okay.
Well, under your account, there's a section called Files under Related. So account profile, click on Related, and see where it says Files.
Yes.
Just click Add. Just show it. Click Add Files there, Kendra, and you'll be able to upload your files from there.
Okay, thank you. I did not see that earlier. My second question was, somebody in this chat said something about, is there a flow chart to the steps? And if there is, I'm really on board with that too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not necessarily a flow chart, but there are screenshots walking through the process. Here's what it is right here. So I wouldn't call it a flow chart, but I call it screenshots walking you through the process.
Okay.
And this is our new grantee SOG. We put a link to it in the chat, I believe, so you can access it now with a link to the chat. But the link will also be posted on our grants website, here soon, hopefully within a week or two. But the link is in the chat for the SOG, I believe, right? Kendra, I think we put the link in the chat for that. Let's see if we can find that here. Where is it? Yes. Make sure we got it here.
I'll put it in the chat again.
You put it in, great. There it is. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so it's just 12:03 p.m. You see the chat. If you click on that link, that'll take you to the grantee SOG.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, great questions. Hey, Connie, go ahead.
Hi, that reminded me, I did have some questions that came out of having the grant last year, and these are simple questions. One, the nationwide cybersecurity review, I noticed on this grant, it says it's not needed, but in fact, as far as I can figure out, you can't get it. Right. So, I just wanted to clarify for the previous grants, it is now no longer required.
Correct. So, right. Yes, correct. It's a great question. I'm glad you brought that up. The NCSR, National Cybersecurity Review, was a requirement in 22 and 23. We had some changes with the federal government, and the NCSR is no longer available to access online. So there's nothing for us to submit anymore. So as of right now, there are no NCSR requirements. If that changes, we will let you know. So basically, it's a kind of a squabbling contest between DHS, FEMA, an organization called CISA, and some contractors that have to figure out where the direction of the NCSR is going to go. If they bring it back and make it available, we will let you know. But right now, those requirements are suspended because we can't submit anything. There's nothing to submit right now. It's not available anymore.
Go ahead.
You're probably thinking the same thing.
No, you go ahead. Yeah.
The cyber hygiene services, the CHS, you'll see that in your MOA as well. And you Google cyber hygiene services, CISA. Those are still a requirement. Okay, so you still have to complete the cyber hygiene services. We don't ask you to turn in your documentation for the cyber hygiene services or proof that you've done it, but you're required to maintain that documentation, and make it available upon request from us or a request of an audit. So your cyber hygiene services are still required. NCSR is not. We'll let you know when NCSR, if it ever comes back. Okay, does that answer your question? And there's
yes, it does.
Yeah,
yes, it does. And thank you. And we are still getting those weekly cyber hygiene services. So I was just going to reach out to them and see if we had to do anything to continue them.
Perfect.
But so we're still getting them so far.
Perfect. Yeah. Hopefully I don't know if they're hopefully they're helpful. I don't know if they are or not, but you got to keep doing that. So I thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. Hey, Curtis, go ahead.
Yeah, another quick question. As far as the NCSR, you did mention that was a requirement for FY23, which we're still ongoing with. Is that something, is that similar to the cyber hygiene services that we don't have to upload it? We just need to maintain the proof that we did perform that in those previous years while we were under that grant up until this point where they've discontinued it? Or is that something that we're supposed to upload into Salesforce somewhere for FY23?
Yes. So NCSR, if you have the NCSRs for previous years, please go ahead and upload that in Salesforce. You can chatter it to your grant manager or upload it to your project. Okay. But we need those for previous years because they just stopped doing it for this cycle. So the previous years you should have, that would be an auditable item. So we need to get your Salesforce. So if you have it for previous years, please put it in your Salesforce.
And I assume that's just the completion certificate that they.
Yes, yeah, that's
Okay.
always, yeah, we just need a police certificate and you're good to go. Maintain it in your own records, of course, as well, right? But we please get into Salesforce. Again, you can chatter it to us or upload it to your project in Salesforce.
Okay, and just for awareness too, I would like to mention to the group here that we were signed up for CISA Cyber Hygiene Services, but apparently they've since I've come on board here, they've added, in addition to their vulnerability scan, they also have a web application scan, which I noticed was included in this year's MOA. So I just wanted to throw that out there for broad awareness that anyone who is taking this grant may want to double check that they're not only signed up for the CISA Cyber Hygiene vulnerability scans, which is more of a network scan, but there's also a web application scan that we were not previously signed up for. I'm not sure exactly when they started doing that, but I noticed that was in this year's grant and we pursued that and have now signed up for that as well. So it may be worth everybody double checking that you're signed up for both of those services because it seems like that's part of the MOA.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great point, sir. I wouldn't even aware of that myself. So thanks for pointing that out. And that you're absolutely correct. That the full suite of services is required. Thank you.
Thank you.
And, yeah, appreciate that. And when he said, upload it to your project. So if you go to your project and go to related and scroll down, you'll see where you can upload files. So we had talked earlier about the account profile and going to related and scrolling down for files, and you can do the same thing for your project.
And that's where we would put the NCSR is under the files under that specific project.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
And if you chattered it from the project, it would automatically put it in your files for you, right? So you could either chatter it from the project or upload it to the project. So like that.
Yep.
All right. Very good. Great question. Again, that's just for NCSR. We do not want all your weekly cyber hygiene reports. Keep those yourselves. If we want them, we'll ask for them. All right. All right. All right. Any other questions? Really good questions. Appreciate the discussion, y'all. Okay. I think we hit everything in the chat. So I think we're good. Sorry it took a while, but we had some really great discussion and questions, which I'm thankful for. And we're grateful for your diligence as we, work together to complete the requirements for 24 SLCGP. And if you have other awards for 23 and 22 SLCGP as well. And for those that have applied for 25 SLCGP, please stand tight. Hopefully we'll know within next couple months or so who is awarded funds for that. And just looking ahead, there's a lot of uncertainty with federal grants right now, with everything going with the federal government. But the one thing I have consistently heard is that the SLCGP grant program has support across Congress, across, Democrats and Republicans. And right now they're talking about SLCGP for the next decade, potentially being funded at the federal level. So nothing, nothing concrete yet. You never know what's going on with the craziness of the federal government, but everything we're hearing so far is all good about SLCGP in terms of its vitality, and hopefully we'll have a program for a long time, funded by the federal government here to administer for the state of North Carolina. It's certainly a very valuable program. All right. Any other questions or concerns? All right. Thank you all. Kendra, if you want to stop the recording will go on our website as a YouTube video link here soon. And again, reach out to your grant managers, chatter us. There's also the SLCGP email box. You can contact that as well if you have any further questions. Thanks, y'all. Have a great day. Bye-bye.